Well, as I thought I'd be talking about the World Cup with the US winning 2-0 against Bosnia Herzegovina, instead, we're talking about arguably one of the dumbest trades in the last couple of years, which is really saying something considering that one of those trades is the Luka Doncic trade. So, for those who have not heard, which I'd be genuinely shocked if you haven't heard, Jaylen Brown has been traded to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for Paul George, two future first round picks, one in 2028, one in 2031, and two second round picks in 2028 and 2030. The 2028 pick is, I believe, just a first round pick that can be turned into a swap, and then the 2031 first round pick is unprotected. Not gonna talk about the Sixers much because it's pretty obvious. The Sixers get better along with Jaylen Brown. They of course acquired Dean Wade as well. So now the starting lineup or the depth chart for the Sixers looks like Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, Dean Wade, and Joel Embiid. Then we got LeBaron, Philon Jr. for both guard positions. For backup small forward, Dean Wade or Justin Edwards. Backup power forward is Dominic Barlow, and backup center is Adem Bona, although I think it might actually become another acquisition, that being Ariel Hukporti from the Knicks, who is actually a 7-footer, very physical center, a young guy as well, but we will see how that is. So that is it on the Sixers. It's a clear upgrade from Paul George to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is not the best off-ball player, but I think it will help him that the catch and shoot threes are going to be easier because the Celtics do play a very fluid game as opposed to the Sixers, who are just dump it into Embiid. Embiid's going to pass out, wide open three. Give the ball to Maxey. Maxey's just going to get doubled right away, open three. Right? It's going to be very simple. Along with that, he's going to be next to VJ Edgecombe, who is a very similar player to Jaylen Brown, except maybe a better shooter. He's going to be next to Tyrese Maxey, who's a good help defender, where Jaylen Brown is a bad help defender, but a good point of attack defender. So if you could get some pre-switches from them, which is basically switching before the pick and roll can happen, something that Golden State Warriors did to great effect when they were in their dynasty years, then I think it's going to go very well. Dean Wade and Embiid is a bit slow. I mean, it's always going to be a bit slow with Embiid. I do think Barlow could come in and become the starting power forward over Wade if that is too much of a problem, and or if Wade does not shoot well, or if Barlow just shoots a lot better. But either way, it's very obvious for the Sixers. Keep it simple. It's a clear upgrade. Don't even worry about it. So then we go to the Celtics part of this. And there's sort of three lanes with this that I think are really, really bad and sort of show why this is a really bad trade. And I've seen some people really try to cope with this through different ways. And I think no matter how you go about it, there's actually no good lane. So here's how we'll go through it. So the first part of this is the picks, because obviously the point of this trade wasn't, you know, maybe you get a good player in Giannis, but if you don't get him, then it was for picks. I'm looking up what they wanted for Giannis, or what the idea was for Giannis. So Jaylen Brown and two unprotected first round picks for Giannis. So instead, you get two picks. One of them is sort of protected and could be a pick swap. It's not the Clippers pick that we have, which is much more valuable than this one, because if you look at the contract situation for the Sixers, right, it's not even that bad, because no matter what happens, the Sixers are not going to be a terrible, terrible team. So you have Embiid until 2029. You have Maxey until 2029. You have VJ on his rookie deal until 2029, and you have Jaylen Brown until 2029. So that 2028 pick is not going to be good. Even if Embiid gets hurt, which he's going to get hurt, you still have Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe who were able to hold the fort while Paul George and Embiid were out for long stretches, and Jaylen Brown, who was on arguably a team with less help and had way more and were the second seed, right? So there's no reason, even with an Embiid injury, for the Sixers to be so bad that that pick is valuable. Second part of this is the 2031 pick. So in a worst case scenario, which again seems unlikely because worst case scenario is that Jaylen Brown isn't good. We're going to keep Maxey and we're going to keep VJ. If Jaylen Brown isn't good, we just don't pay him. VJ progresses. I mean, he averaged 18 or he averaged 16 points a game. He continues to be maybe, let's say a low-level all-star. Or just maybe like a really good high-scoring role player. The team gets 40 wins. That's still not super valuable in 2031. And if somehow the whole thing blows up, that means you're banking on this 2031 pick. I'm not even going to talk about the second round picks. You're banking on this 2031 pick to be really, really good. And I think that's just a really risky gamble. So that's the first part of this trade that's bad. The second part about this trade that is bad, that I've heard people sort of try to cope with, is Paul George, his contract expires faster. So Paul George is guaranteed this year and then has a player option. Almost certainly going to take the player option because it's $56 million. He's not going to get that amount of money anymore. So he's going to take the player option. And so this means that the Celtics will have about $60 million in cap space for the 2028 free agency class. So the 2028 free agency class is Joel Embiid, who's not going to go anywhere but the Sixers. He'd probably retire first. Giannis, coin flip. Anthony Davis, who, if he is even healthy, will not be valuable at 35. Jokic is the only actual maybe, and you got to throw the house at him, and he's going to be 33. Excuse me. Karl Anthony Towns, probably not, because he just won with the Knicks. Luka Doncic, probably not, because he's going to get the house from the Lakers and is going to get extended, which is another issue, is that every guy that I've mentioned so far could just be extended and not hit free agency. Bam Adebayo, probably not, because he's going to make more money with the Heat anyway. Paul George, you already have him, and you're probably not going to want to keep him. Donovan Mitchell, maybe. Again, he's going to be 31 or almost 32. Not sure if that's going to be helpful at that point. Pascal Siakam, probably not, because he fits even worse than Jaylen Brown. Domantas Sabonis, probably not, because he's going to be like Vucevic again. Kevin Durant, no. He's going to be 39. He's going to be really old. OG Anunoby, okay. Still think he would stick with the Knicks, but sure. Brandon Ingram, which is the last person I'm going to mention, because past that, it really makes no sense to even mention because they're not better than Jaylen Brown. Going to be 31, and it's still not as good as Jaylen Brown right now. And it's not going to be, unless something crazy happens, basically from Paul George and under, maybe except for Donovan Mitchell, not going to be better than Jaylen Brown. So even if these guys don't get extensions, and if those guys want to go to Boston, unless it's Jokic, you're really not getting anyone, if it's not Jokic or Luka or Giannis, you're not really getting someone who's guaranteed better than Jaylen Brown this season. And so that's another reason why this free agency doesn't make sense, this trade doesn't make sense, because even if you're banking on the free agency aspect, there's less guarantees there than just having Jaylen Brown on your team. So that's number two. Number three, if for those who don't know, the Celtics floated a trade between them and the Bucks. Sorry, yeah, them and the Bucks for Giannis, and the trade included basically Jaylen Brown and 2 firsts, and then supposedly the Bucks asked for Hugo Gonzalez and or Baylor Shireman, and the Celtics said no. So I was curious because I do remember hearing people talk up Hugo Gonzalez, like, oh, uh, he's a good rookie, he has a lot of potential, blah blah blah. And I wanted to compare him to Jaylen Brown as a rookie. Now, obviously, there is no way to guarantee how a guy develops, right? And every situation is different. I want to acknowledge that because it is unfair to say Hugo Gonzalez is in the same situation as Jaylen Brown, or Baylor Shireman's in the same situation as Jaylen Brown. Because back when Jaylen Brown was a rookie, there was a lot more freedom for him to develop into whatever he wanted to be, as opposed to these two who are more there to be role players. I understand that. However, Jaylen Brown did not have that special of a rookie season. 6.6 points per game, 0.8 assists, 2.8 rebounds, 34% from three, on 5 field goal attempts per game, 17 minutes. Like, he wasn't it's not like comparing them to Jason Tatum, where Jason Tatum immediately emerged onto the scenes as a really, really good rookie. So I want to make that clear. Also, just because I care about it, defensively below average. So just want to put that out there. So again, wait, his nickname's the Gravedigger? Nickname part of sports reference makes no sense. Anyway, Jaylen Brown, not that special of a rookie. Even with all the freedom he had, he did not have that great of a rookie year. Hugo Gonzalez, for his rookie year, who played 2.6 minutes less than Jaylen Brown. To be fair, that is a relatively high percentage considering that they're low minutes, but 2.6 less minutes. 3.9 points per game, half a steal, half an assist, 3.3 rebounds, 36% from three. On, I assume, less takes, 1.7, okay, so slightly less takes, field goal attempts, definitely less. So, I mean, slightly better shooting, worse scoring, right? So again, if you're going off of these four potential, which is again unfair because I'm not watching the games, and I'm acknowledging that. It just doesn't feel like, from an outside perspective, the potential for Shireman is that, or potential for Gonzalez is that great compared to Brown. And to keep him to get Paul George instead of Giannis doesn't seem like that good of an idea. Baylor Shireman was someone else who was floated in this. Rookie season, 3.6 points, but I'm actually going to go to his sophomore season just because, again, the hope is that he's more comfortable, he has more freedom because he's already been there, right? 5.5 points per game, half a steal, 1.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds. So, in terms of the counting stats, certainly better. 40% three-point shooter, certainly better. In terms of field goal percentage, basically the same, which is a little concerning considering the fact that he was a 40% three-point shooter on 3.2 attempts out of his 4.3 attempts, field goal attempts per game, while Jaylen Brown shot a lot worse from three. Because that means that from two, he's not shooting nearly as good as Jaylen Brown. On 18.6 minutes per game, so more minutes than Jaylen Brown. And he just took less shots. My mouse is glitching out on me for some reason. I don't know what's going on. In terms of his defense, apparently he's a good defender, which doesn't seem correct. considering how he looked against Tyrese Maxey. But again, that could just be him being around good defensive players. Same thing with Hugo Gonzalez. This one I can actually see because he at least it feels like he puts in more of the effort to be a good defender. But again, if your choices are Paul George and these two players in picks that you have no idea what the value are, or Giannis, it feels like there's no reason to pick Paul George. This is, I mean, and a lot of people are talking about this. This is a trade that no one understands how to compartmentalize in their brain, especially with the history of the Celtics making weird trades like this and it just working out. Because usually they make these trades early in a guy's career, and so their scouting and their development is better. They're not going to get better off of Paul George than the Sixers are off of Jaylen Brown, unless Jaylen Brown never touches the floor as a healthy player for the Sixers. So it just doesn't make any sense. I I haven't seen an actual Celtics fan like this trade either. By the way, the only people that I've seen defend it are sort of neutral fans who are trying to spin this in a certain way. But all the Celtics fans in my group chat that I have, that are a bunch of family friends, they all hate it. All of us who are Sixers fans are like, this trade makes zero sense. I was doing baseball commentary, had to stop that to talk about this trade, and went back to it multiple times because, again, sort of like the Luka trade, it was just like, why would you ever do this? Did Danny Ainge not pass down the secret sauce to Brad Stevens? Or is the new GM of the Sixers just that good, I guess? I don't know. Um, yeah, so that's going to be it for me. I really don't know how to end this off because I still can't wrap my head around it. Hope you've enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you have. And I'll talk to you soon, hopefully.